Rosita Blanco, the Artsy sister, and today we're reading Saturnastra, Chicot. This is chapter 5, part 1, The Downgoing. When Chicot left, the new owner of the Smithy started manufacturing the compact mirrors, and since he was still figuring out the tools, they were of inferior qualities. In the end, he resorted to just selling the 6,000 that still remained in stock. While opening random holes in an effort to find the basement, the Smithy blew up. It also burned the apartment and some of the neighboring establishments. According to eyewitness reports, this fire was caused by a strange raven-haired man, and based on his description, it was believed to be Amy. However, he had a solid alibi since he was teaching at the time. A survivor from the explosion described the madman laughing as the flames consumed the establishment and his person. Very little was recovered from the signs, as nobody was found, and the madman was assumed to be a crazed elven magician. Such bizarre fires were common in towns bordering the elven forest. The new year came, and people soon forgot about Chicot, Avis, and the street urchins that Lady Margaret had got in exile. All that remained of him were the several dozen compact mirrors. Life in Susan regained some semblance of normalcy over the course of the winter months. The mirrors associated with necromancy created a superstitious fear of mirrors. Most of them had gotten destroyed, and the production of them was put to a halt. Mother did keep hers, and I also noticed that the men from the Warriors Guild ceremoniously using them to shave their faces. A strange change was happening within the Warriors Guild, and for the last month they had spent all their time in town. And following the guild system, they would take requests and then head out to fulfill them. It was unusual to see all of them in town. I was able to appreciate the size of the local guild. They numbered a strong 231, and they were a bit of an oddity since guilds were normally for merchants and craftsmen. They were, in essence, a loose association of hired swordsmen. Individually, they were a force to be reckoned with. However, the loose management of their leader had kept them from becoming a true mercenary corps. Having them all together did not inspire much confidence. Most of the towns avoided having mercenary corps as permanent residents. They only tolerated the Warriors Guilds, and they spent most of their time out of town. Their jobs were usually unimportant, like personal bodyguard, armed escort, guard duty, etc. They also participated in tournaments for some quick cash. A few did act as teachers for noblemen, while others were suspected to be occasional highwaymen. Due to the loose association, nobody knew who was the leader, and when all were believed to be assembled, a strange warrior arrived in town. His sword was of odd design as well. He carried it without a sheath, wrapped in cloth. It almost seemed to be falling apart. The jagged sides had a distinct geometrical pattern, and the entire length of the broadsword had runes. The pommel of the sword had a thick bell. Its high-pitched sound made it impossible for his movements to go unnoticed. Based on this sword alone, I knew that this warrior was Fornas. He was a famous blind knight from the southern kingdom. His steel sword was identified as Umberge. I was not privy to the conversation Forna had in the Warriors Guild. Whatever he said was enough for them to disband, and within a month the warriors and their families had left town as well. It seemed to me that ever since Chicot had been exiled, Sustan was quickly being emptied out. The local businesses were the first to feel the brunt of the absence. Last year it was estimated that roughly 3,500 people lived in town, and lately it felt like there were less than 2,000. The absence was felt more in school and amongst the guilds. The journeymen had all but deserted the town in search of better opportunities. Around the same time, the trading caravans of the guilds were constantly raided. Lady Margaret's manor was robbed almost 5 times in the course of 1 month. Her husband's annual income had also been compromised, and he was charged with tax evasion, and by spring, Lady Margaret had lost half her estate. The neighbor said she had been cursed by Chicot and the other children. As for Chicot, he had seemed to have dropped out of existence. He was naturally assumed to be dead, and therefore he was haunting Lady Margaret. A bad harvest sent this town into turmoil, and Lady Margaret started importing food to sustain herself and her household. At the rate she was going, she would soon become a fallen noble. She eventually had to lay off my mother, and Lady Margaret also requisitioned all of the clothing we had on our backs. Since she was of high status, we could do nothing but grieve and bear this betrayal, so she just stole everything that the servants had as well. I took my mother and we moved to a flat by the edge of town, and my mother spent the winter sick, and she would barely eat, and she spent most of her time lying in bed. At other times, she would stare like a madman at the maiden in her compound mirror. She was transfixed by the image. I left the school and started working as a scribe to earn extra income. One day my boss started decreasing my salary and beating me, and after going hungry for a week, I left to find Chicot's cache. Alright, check the time. I had never been outside of town, let alone the surrounding forest. Based on the information, the cache was to be found in the hollow of a tree. Thankfully, the drawing with the instruction was pretty accurate, and when I searched within, I found 5,000 gold coins. My friend's instinct was to move to a better house. Prudence eventually kicked in. I decided to use it to buy clothing and food. The food prices at the market were criminally insane this winter, and even through haggling and begging, I was down to 1,000 gold coins after the first month of winter. Fearing to go hungry again, I supplemented my ever-decreasing wages by begging. "You're lucky, Joseph, that I pay you anything," said my boss. Indeed, I was lucky indeed. Without the journeyman's license, I was the same rank as an apprentice, and my mother had never bothered to let me undergo apprenticeship, since she thought that the guilds were beneath me. One day my boss's children made sport of me. In anger, I struck one square in the face. I lost my job, and my writing hand broke after a vicious beating. My last memory of the incident was lying on the ground under a pool of my own blood. When I awoke, I was bandaged up and sleeping beside my mother. In her maddened state, she could not relate to me in a coherent fashion how I had returned home, nor could she tell me who had treated my wounds. After the incident, I think I too spent some time half mad. I imagined I would see Chicot wearing his distinct white robes. I took to aimlessly wandering at night, mumbling to myself, and during one of such wanderings, I bumped into Professor Amy. Not recognizing him, I continued along. Amy detained me by saying, "By the gods, Joseph, get a grip. You cannot allow any small piece of adversity to destroy you." "That's easy for you to say, mister," I said, chattering between my teeth. Smiling, he said before continuing on his way, "A pity, you showed such promise." I heard his footsteps slowly depart. Suddenly he stopped and said, "Your friend is alive, you know. They all are." "How do you know?" I asked, running towards him. "I keep tabs on Chicot, as per his brother's wishes," explained Amy. "So he's alive. How is he?" I asked. He's fine," said Amy, smiling. He added, "Chicot gave you his lifeline. Make good use of it. You cannot allow yourself to fall into the pits of despair. And do not forget, if someone tries to smash the other cheek, do not allow them to humiliate you." I bore the summer months with a new feverish energy. Taking a lesson from Chicot, I apprenticed myself with the most depressing-looking guildmaster. Through clever tricks and niceness, I was able to become an apprentice by fall, and the old me would have revolted at the thought of using underhanded tactics and manipulation. However, times were trying, and the guilds were to blame. When the leaves started to yellow, I saw Lady Margaret living in a rich new apartment. Based on rumors, she had laid off my mother because of me. She did not want somebody who had associated with a criminal living under her roof. It was hypocritical considering the racketeering method her husband employed to maintain his lifestyle. After glaring out the window for an hour, I ran into one of her servants on the way out. Unfortunately, the servant recognized me. Lady Margaret must have done her work indeed, since the journeyman's license was useless to me. Other guildmasters pretended it was a fake. As such, I was stuck working with my new master, who was slowly being driven into poverty. One day he fired me, and I do not blame him. He must have gotten pressure from the other guildmasters. Time, bro?
Yeah, 5 minutes.
Despite being midsummer, the food prices were not lowering. In fact, rum was cheaper than a carrot. The beggars stood to getting drunk to quiet their rumbling stomachs, and in the old days, I I used to think that all beggars were drunkards, and I took for granted the easily availability of food. Lady Margaret always had her food delivered to her home. As such, I never quite grasped the true price of one's daily bread. While I was begging, I took to asking for food instead of money. This helped reduce the amount of money I was spending on food. The downside was that I was forced to eat almost rotting food. One day I collapsed during one of my begging sessions, and I felt as if my stomach was being pierced by needles. Professor Amy, who was passing by, gave me a tonic, and I felt better. Frowning, he said, "If you had need of food, go forage in the forest." He handed me a little notebook with hand sketches of wild plants that were edible. I commented, "But the forest has all sorts of dangerous animals like bears and snakes." Amy handed me a silver bracelet with a charm around it. Each charm themed after an animal or bug, and then he said, "This charm should protect you from the most dangerous of creatures in the forest. It will not keep you safe from humans, so take a mail breaker, and don't forget, always aim for the chins." You know, like the lower part of your leg, the Achilles heel. Oh yeah, time, bro?
3 minutes.
The following day, after I twisted my leg while foraging in the woods. The ankle swelled up quite a bit. At first I tried to walk it out, but it was a no-go. I rested by a tree trunk, waiting for my leg to heal by itself. Frankly, I had no idea how to deal with the situation, and I was just sitting there hoping for a miracle to happen. The miracle came in the form of Amy. He carried me to my home and put a cold towel around my swollen ankle. Shaking his head, he said, "If you want this to get fixed, you need to stay off your leg for 15 days. Crying, my mother took Amy's hand and she said, "Bless you for helping my boy in our time of need. But wouldn't it be better to take him to the barber?" "Well, if you want him to lose a leg, then take him to the barber by all means," said Amy sarcastically. "I can't miss a whole week of work," I said, trying to get up. I could give you a stay-at-home job in exchange of delivering your groceries," suggested Amy. "Why didn't you offer me a job sooner?" I said angrily. "Another lesson, boy. Don't bite the hand that feeds you," said Amy caustically. His black eyes seemed for a moment reddish under the gentle glow of the candlelight. Time, bro?
2 minutes.
Like Amy had instructed, I kept my leg up for a week, and my mother regularly changed the cold towels. They had to be kept on for 15 minutes and then removed for half an hour. I was also supposed to keep off my leg and leave it suspended around my navel, and I only got up from bed to attend to my natural needs, and my mother watched me in the bed to limit my mobility. She was also worried about the leg-cutting prospect. The stay-at-home job involved grading papers Amy could not be bothered to read. They were certainly one piece of work, and it brought tears to my eyes just reading them on a daily basis. Time, fish?
1 minute 30 seconds.
Alright, let's just leave it here. Bye bye and God bless.